Good morning and welcome to the Londero Lounge, episode 1, The Man, the Myth, the Legend. We're here this morning with Giovanni Renato Londero, aka my father, and we're going to be asking some questions today. How are you this morning?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Okay, shall we get rolling?
We shall.
Where were you born?
I was born at the maternity wing of the Orange Base Hospital at a very young age.
So that was in Orange, New South Wales?
That's in Orange, New South Wales.
Wonderful. Who are your parents?
My parents, my father was Renato Londero. He was a refugee from Italy. He came to Australia after World War II on a contract to work for Tancred's Meat Works. And my mother was a sixth generation Australian, descended from an Irish convict who was transported here on the convict ship the Margaret in the 1800s.
And what was her name?
Her name was Thelma Olive Blake.
I know this is going to be a tricky one, but what was your first memory?
I think my first real memory was about the time that I received concussion. My father had bought a block of land down in Limerick Avenue in Orange, and we were living in the garage, and he just built the foundations, and I was running along the foundation, like the brickwork, and I fell down and hit my head and I was concussed.
Well, they say you usually drop your baby on the head, but I think he did it for himself. Where did you grow up?
I grew up mainly between Orange and Burke. I spent most of my life in between Orange and Burke. My mother's parents lived at Burke, and that's where my father was contracted to the meatworks there. After he was there a while, he won the lottery and bought his contract out and went out to become a builder. Dad liked Orange because it reminded him of the country where he grew up, and it had mountains and stuff like that. It was cold and that kind of stuff. So yeah, he built houses here. I was unwell a lot when I was a child with asthma and similar lung complaints, and so it was deemed a good thing for me to be further out west at Burke. So they spent time out at Burke, and then they come back to Orange, and Dad had built another house and they moved back out to Burke and various things like that.
Who was your favourite teacher at school?
Primary school would have been a man by the name of Murray. I can't remember his first name. I had him in year 4 and year 6. He was a small guy and everybody called him Mousy Murray. And I remember he drove a Morris 1100. It was the first Morris 1100 I'd seen in Orange. This was in the 60s. In high school, I think there was a variety of teachers I liked, for different reasons. There was a history teacher who was a really good history teacher, and I liked him, and he was the one I think that developed my liking of history. I had very good science teachers. There was a couple of other teachers that I saw socially. I didn't necessarily have them in class a lot, but I saw that, like one of them, he had a huge record collection, and he sort of started me on my musical journey, showing me all these amazing bands of the 60s and into the early 70s.
And were the teachers when you did your nursing degree?
One of them was a friend of mine's father, Bobby Arnold's father, Chris Arnold. He was one of my teachers when I first started. Lynn Beattie was a favourite teacher of mine. She was very good.
What kind of student were you?
I was the kind of student who used to goof off a lot. But when it came to getting it done, at the last minute, I was there, like 100% at the last minute.
And how were your marks?
I had a few distinctions, but mostly credits. I was just, because I was there for the the entertainment value as well.
The social side.
The social side of things as well, yes.
What sports did you play at school?
Well, I played lots of big ball sports like soccer and football. I wasn't so good on. I did play tennis, but I wasn't that good at tennis, and I wasn't good at golf and other games where you had little ball cricket and that, where it was hard to see the ball because of my eyesight. And I also did a lot of swimming.
So you didn't stay in hockey for long?
No, I was in hockey in Orange, which I enjoyed, but when I went, that was the beginning of high school, and then end of second year I went out to Burke, and there was no hockey played at all at Burke, so that was the end of that pretty well.
So did you play both rugby and league?
Yes, I played rugby for the town with the Burke Warriors, and I played rugby league, and I represented the school, the open weight football team.
I don't know much about union, but do you know what position you played in league?
Yeah, I played second row in both union and league, and in the scrum. Yeah.
Makes sense. When scrums were quite feisty.
Yes.
And you also did some gymnastics towards?
Yes, I like gymnastics as well. I did a lot of gymnastics up until fourth form.
Who was your favourite relative as a child?
Oh, probably my grandmother. She was a lovely woman, and I still miss her a lot. We had a lot in common, but she was lovely for all the kids. She was a lovely lady.
Was she on your mum's side?
Yeah, my mum's side. Yeah, I never met my grandparents on my father's side.
Yeah. They were over in Italy?
They were over in Italy, and I've never been.
Yeah. What was her name?
Her name was Dorothea Ella Blake.
Who was your best friend?
Well, I probably had a lot of best friends. Chris Clayton was my best friend. Ian Cole and Bill Turkey were my best friends, and Pegsy was my best friend. They're the four probably the closest friends I've had over the years.
Did you meet them all when you were quite young, or?
Yeah, pretty well. I met Pegsy and Chris when I was in primary school. Chris, I think, when I was in grade 4. Pegsy about the same time, and then I met Ian and Bill when I went to Burke in what would be year 8 now. No, 7, year 7.
What is the memorable moment from your childhood?
There's lots of memorable moments in my childhood.
You can pick one, you can pick a few, just...
I think I finished my exams in year 6. I came top of the school in social studies, which was history and geography, which quite surprised me. A great moment. There were lots of things.
This might be a tricky one too that you might not be able to remember off the top of your head. What is the most embarrassing moment you can think of?
There was about a million of them.
There's one that I might like to bring up. It was when you were first training to be a nurse, and something about having your hands in your pockets.
Oh, well, yes, when I'd done my first nursing manager, had never spoke to me in the 3 months I was in the placement in the unit. One day I was in the dining room, warming my bum on the heater in the middle of the winter, like that. and just watching people eat, and she walked past me and said, "Attendant, take your hands out of your pockets." And that was the only thing she said to me in the entire placement that I was in the unit for.
Did that make you freak out at all, or?
No, not really.
No?
It was, just struck me as strange, but...
I probably would have panicked and been anxious for a very long time afterwards. What was your first job?
Would have been working in a clothing store in Burke when I just moved from Orange to Burke. My parents had broke up. My mum moved to Burke with my younger brother, and I stayed with my father for the first 12 months of high school, or a bit over the first 12 months. And then I moved up to Mum because things weren't going very good with Dad. I was by myself all the time. He was out partying, and I had no clothes and stuff like that. So anyway, went up there, and because I had no clothes, and Mum, there was no such thing as a supporting mother's benefit or anything like that at the time, and Mum was working for very little money, and so I got a job at a clothing store, and in return I was paid in clothes. Like I got school uniform and, you know, shorts and shirts and things like that. So I lasted there about 6 months, and then I got a job with the Picture Theatre, and I continued on there. I was about 15 when I got the job there, and I continued on till the end of high school.
What did you have to do at the Picture Theatre?
I was a projectionist, or projectionist assistant as they call them. I was responsible for getting all the films ready for showing, like the films that come from the distributors on their own reels. We had to put them on our reels, which fitted our projectors, and at the same time check the film for tears and breaks and things like that, so that there wasn't a break during the show. Then helping with sort of loading and unloading and into the cameras and the projectors, doing hand changeovers, checking all the rods that we used in the arc lamps, make sure that the mirrors and all that sort of stuff were clean, and cleaning the projection box, and also responsible for all the advertising material that used to go out, like the front of house and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
This might be more than just a yes/no answer, because I want to know the whys. What is the longest you have ever gone without sleeping?
Probably a bit more than 24 hours when I was working on the cotton crops, because in the summertime and those school holidays, when I had time off, I'd go out and work on the cotton crops as well. So I'd be working with a crop duster. We'd spray all day and all night, so we got all the fields sprayed. So
Was that in Burke?
that was in Burke, yeah. So that would be over 24 hours, yeah, like marking the rows that they had to spray with a flag or a lamp or a torch in the middle of the night.
So you were literally standing there as they sprayed?
Yes.
So you got sprayed?
Sometimes, yes.
Oof!
Oh, yeah.
And here I was thinking that it would be something to do with night shift or maybe a bender, but it was the goggles spraying.
Yeah.
There you go. Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Probably a bit of both, really. I enjoy my solitary periods and my sort of looking in, my soul searching, and I also love people. So, and I love meeting people, and yeah, I have no trouble with sort of introducing myself and getting into people's faces.
The feedback from all of the staff at work's always positive, I can assure you that. In your own words, what does love mean?
Well, that means many things to me. Companionship, that's one that's hard for me to explain.
That's okay.
Well, it's a feeling that you have that someone is special in your life, basically. And there's a whole myriad of things that go with it, like, you know, you're good friends, you help each other, you sort of work for a common goal, a million things. In earlier years, you raise children and all those kind of things.
What do you love most about yourself?
I like my resilience and my ability to keep sort of going on, especially lately. It's always been a thing. I've always been able to turn up and go, you know, put my foot down and go, put my nose to the grindstone.
There's always a word that I think of when I think of you, and that's tenacity.
Okay.
Tenacity. That's burned into my brain as something that's Dad, is tenacity. And I always think of that when I feel down or that I can't do something. I just think Dad would say tenacity is what gets you through. What is one thing that you would recommend everyone should do at least once in their lifetime?
Don't know, because everybody's different, and you know, people get satisfaction out of different things. motorcycle riding is yeah, or you know, being hooked up with music or dance or whatever, you know, makes you happy. So sport even like.
And what's the fastest you've ever been on a motorcycle? Just for the record?
Oh, probably about 220 kilometres per hour on a bike.
And what's the
On an
fastest
MV Augusta.
on a what, sorry?
MV Augusta, Pegasus MV Augusta.
Okay, and how old were you roughly when you did that?
Probably 22, 23, something like that.
Well, that concludes our first episode of the Londero Lounge, and I want to thank you for being so open and honest. And I know sometimes questions aren't easy to answer for a myriad of reasons, but thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.